Welcome to the Produce Safety Program, or PSP, workshop session as part of the Regulatory Alignment Study. CRO will be hosting 2 workshop sessions related to the PSP. This recording will share information on the study's PSP regulatory pathways or proposals as outlined in the Regulatory Alignment concept paper released in early May. It will not include any information shared during the live workshop sessions. For the session, we will be covering the following agenda items. First, we will go over an update on the Regulatory Alignment Study, provide an overview of the objectives and upcoming milestones. Then, we will cover the workshop session objectives and share our approach for regulatory alignment and the development of the Regulatory Alignment concept paper. For most of the workshop session, we will present an overview of each of the proposed regulatory pathways, or RPs, as divided up by the following 4 focus areas: data and information sharing, efficiencies, effectiveness, and equity. We'll end the session with a wrap-up and next steps. If you aren't familiar with the study, the Regulatory Alignment Study is a 3-year-long engagement with the goal to identify opportunities for regulatory alignment and streamlining processes within the areas of food safety and water quality. At the onset of the study in November 2022, CRO was tasked with 5 key objectives which align with our key study milestones or tasks. The first being to evaluate regulatory requirements. Then, to conduct listening sessions with members of the agricultural community. We completed both of these tasks and will explain each in more detail in a coming slide. Our next objectives are to convene the agricultural community and regulators, which we will be completing through these workshops. To identify and prepare implementation plans, and finally to provide recommendations for technological enhancements, if any. As mentioned in the previous slide, we will be conducting these workshops as part of our 3rd study objective. The workshops will be instrumental in shaping our final recommendations and remaining study milestones, which you can see highlighted in the 3 boxes on the slide. To provide a brief overview of each, in summer 2024, along with these workshops, CRO will be identifying process improvements and implementation steps to support regulatory alignment. In fall of 2024, we will be evaluating and recommending technological enhancements as they relate to our proposals. And finally, by November 2025, we will present solutions and recommend implementation plans, which will include release of a final report. In terms of the workshop session, we have laid out 5 key objectives for these workshops. The first is around effectiveness of proposals and understanding whether the proposals meet the regulatory alignment goals. The second is around implementation challenges and opportunities. Any specific examples you can provide around this would be helpful to our team in understanding the feasibility of proposals from various perspectives. The third is on unaddressed needs or gaps. This includes areas not currently addressed in the proposals, while keeping in mind the overall scope of the study, which is confined to the 4 program areas of the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program, the Produce Safety Program, the Confined Animal Facilities Program, and the State Winery Order. Objective 4 is on equity and inclusivity, and how the proposals may impact different groups within the agricultural community, including small-scale and socially disadvantaged growers and communities. Finally, we look forward to hearing any suggestions for improvements of the proposals to better meet your needs. We released the Regulatory Alignment concept paper in early May. The paper is available on the study's website and includes our initial proposals or regulatory pathways for streamlining. The paper covers 4 programs in scope of the study, including the Produce Safety Program, the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program, the Confined Animal Facilities Program, and the State Winery Order. We encourage everyone to read the concept paper and/or executive summary, which are available on the study's website, as they have more details on the proposals we will be covering in the workshops. The development of the paper and the proposals detailed in the paper were based on information and input gathered throughout our study's first 2 tasks, which included evaluating the regulatory requirements and conducting listening sessions with members of the agricultural community. During these tasks, CRO conducted nearly 30 sessions with CDFA and Water Board staff, and mapped 80 distinct processes across the programs and scope of the study. Additionally, CRO held over 70 listening sessions with members of the agricultural community to hear their input and experiences with the state's food safety and water quality programs and regulatory requirements. As mentioned in the previous slide, our approach for regulatory alignment and development of initial proposals was based on extensive research and outreach conducted throughout the study. In considering what regulatory alignment means, we identified 3 different goals, which were validated and reinforced by input we received from program staff and agricultural community members. The goals are to 1. Empower the agricultural community through streamlined regulatory requirements, 2. Support the state's data and information collection efforts, and 3. Strengthen protections to human health and the environment. We used these 3 goals to help develop proposals that are both balanced across various perspectives and benefits and grounded in the current regulatory landscape. We also identified 4 focus areas that form the foundation of the proposals. They are crucial for realizing the regulatory alignment goals. The focus areas include 1. Data and information sharing, 2. Efficiencies, 3. Effectiveness, and 4. Equity. We will explain each of these in the next slide. The focus areas provide a lens for how we organize the proposed regulatory pathways in each program. The first is data and information sharing, which describes opportunities to improve the exchange of selected data and information between state regulatory agencies and programs. The second is efficiencies, which describes opportunities to simplify and expedite regulatory, administrative, reporting, and compliance processes. The third area is on program effectiveness, or opportunities to measure regulatory performance objectives and goals. And finally, the last focus area is on equity, which describes opportunities to ensure the inclusion of socially disadvantaged communities, farmers, and ranchers in the development, implementation, and enforcement of regulations. Within each of these focus areas, we have identified initial proposals or regulatory pathways to improve, streamline, and align regulatory programs and requirements and scope of the study.
CROW identified 12 regulatory pathways, or RPs, for the produce safety program. 3 RPs are related to the data and information sharing focus area, 2 RPs are related to program efficiency, 4 RPs are related to program effectiveness, and 3 RPs are related to equity. As you'll notice throughout this presentation, we refer to regulatory pathways and proposals synonymously. They refer to the options, considerations, tools, or recommendations for improving, streamlining, and aligning the regulatory requirements and programs and scope of the study. Before we talk about each of the proposals, we would like to emphasize that these are not final recommendations, but rather a starting point for additional conversations that we hope to have throughout our workshop sessions. If you are unable to join live workshop sessions, we invite you to provide written feedback to us by July 31st, 2024 by emailing regulatoryalignmentstudy@crow.com. We will provide more information on this process at the end of the session. As we walk through the following regulatory pathways, please keep in mind the following discussion questions. First, what are potential implementation benefits and opportunities? Second, what are potential implementation challenges? Third, which regulatory pathway within each focus area is most important to you? And the last, are there any unaddressed needs? We would appreciate your feedback on these questions as they will help CROW to continue to refine and develop the proposals. As mentioned, you can provide your feedback during the live workshop sessions or through written feedback provided to regulatoryalignmentstudy@crow.com by July 31st, 2024. Starting with the first focus area of data and information sharing, CROW has identified 3 regulatory pathways related to the produce safety program. We will review each in the coming slides. RP1. Support farm verification through the collection of selected data through enhanced coordination with third parties, CDFA programs, and Waterborne's water quality programs. This proposal aims to streamline farm verification activities by obtaining selected data from relevant entities that gather information, which may inform the development of PSP's composite farm list. The composite farm list currently comprises information gathered from the CDFA State Organics Program, the California Agricultural Commissioners and Sealers Association, and the CDFA Direct Marketing Program. A more exhaustive composite farm list could potentially decrease PSP staff's manual review and validation of information collected in this composite farm list. Additionally, this may decrease time spent verifying a farm from a grower's perspective. Within the first proposal, PSP may choose to start by conducting an initial analysis of underlying governance and regulations to determine the feasibility of collecting growers' specific data and information from various entities that may be helpful in farm verifications. Based on the results of this feasibility analysis, further specific opportunities for this proposal may include coordinating with third-party auditors, such as the Global Gap or Primus GFS, to obtain lists of growers as a data input for an up-to-date composite farm list. Coordinating with commodity groups, such as the Leafy Greens Marketing Agreement, or LGMA, and the California Cantaloupe Advisory Board, the CCAB, to obtain lists of growers as a data input for an up-to-date composite farm list. Coordinating with ILRP coalitions to obtain routine listings of enrollees as a data input for an up-to-date composite farm list. And lastly, PSP may coordinate with water board staff to receive lists of wineries under the state winery order that may grow produce covered under the produce safety rule. Options to implement this proposal include sharing information and data related to farms based on a standardized unique identifier established by the state to provide accurate transfer of information that can be reconciled easily. The establishment of a cloud-based data sharing mechanism to connect and integrate PSP's farm data repository with relevant CDFA agricultural program databases, such as the State Organics Program Portal, to share selected data on a routine basis. Appoint a PSP communication liaison to coordinate directly with relevant agency staff at the water boards to obtain selected data and related documentation on a routine basis. Additionally, PSP staff may encourage both the water boards and coalitions to appoint similar staff. Additionally, PSP can elect to modify existing interagency agreements or memorandums of understanding between water boards and CDFA to facilitate the sharing of information that aids PSP farm verification activities while also keeping in mind grower privacy. And lastly, the establishment of a shared list of publicly available grower information between CDFA and the water boards to streamline PSP farm verification and water boards water quality program enrollment processes. This would exclude individuals enrolled anonymously. RP2. Obtain and use shared data from relevant entities to prioritize risk-based inspections using the Produce Decision Analysis Tool criteria. This proposal aims to streamline prioritization and inspection activities through increased data and information sharing between relevant entities, such as the CAF program, third-party auditors, and relevant commodity groups. Information gathered from these entities, such as participation in commodity groups, participation in food safety audits, and adjacent land use, could help prioritize inspections of facilities with the highest risk to public health. Within this second proposal, PSP may choose to begin by conducting an initial analysis of underlying governance and regulations to determine the feasibility of sharing grower-specific data and information from various entities to ultimately evaluate and prioritize inspections. Based on the results of this initial feasibility analysis, further specific opportunities for this proposal may include establishing a data and information sharing protections partnership between PSP and the CAF program to catalog the location of all types of CAF facilities and PSP farms on a single, unified, interactive, internal-only geographic information system map. The development of this map will be contingent on a legal agreement that provides the map to remain internal to regulators. Additionally, the purpose of this map is to assist PSP staff with relevant risk prioritization decisions. as produce farms located closer to cat facilities may be more susceptible to contamination by foodborne pathogens. Additionally, PSP may establish a partnership between third-party auditors, such as Global Gap, Primus GFS, and the USDA Harmonized Gap Audit Program, to share growers' inspection outcomes and/or dates. Additionally, PSP may establish a partnership with commodity groups, such as LGMA and CCAV, to electronically transmit lists of growers' last inspection outcomes and/or dates. In both of the cases of these prior two opportunities, the participation in third-party audit programs and commodity groups may indicate that a grower is lower risk as they are already implementing food safety best practices in alignment with their respective food safety or audit program schemes. Next is the last RP or proposal for the data and information sharing focus area. RP3. Obtain compliance information from third-party auditors and commodity groups to streamline inspections. This proposal aims to streamline inspection activities by using growers' food safety compliance certificates obtained from third-party and commodity group audits as a means to verify PSR compliance. This can potentially eliminate the need for a separate PSP inspection. CDFA should consider working with the FDA to determine the alignment of third-party and commodity group audit schemes with PSR requirements themselves. Within the third proposal, PSP may consider beginning by conducting an initial analysis of underlying governance and regulations to determine the feasibility of collecting grower-specific data and information from third-party auditors and commodity groups that may ultimately be helpful in streamlining inspection activities. Based on the results of this initial feasibility analysis, further specific opportunities for this proposal may include PSP obtaining monthly lists of growers who have demonstrated compliance with third-party and commodity group audits to demonstrate full or partial PSR compliance. Growers would be able to authorize their audit programs or commodity groups to provide audit results directly with PSP staff. Additionally, PSP may allow growers to self-report and provide records and/or certifications related to passing an aligned audit as a replacement for a full PSR inspection. Moving on to the second focus area of efficiencies, CRO has identified two regulatory pathways related to the Produce Safety Program. We will review each in detail in the coming slides. RP4. Optimize the farm data repository to incorporate available data into a robust risk prioritization model. This proposal aims to streamline the collection and evaluation of data to increase the efficiency of risk profiling and improve the effectiveness of inspection prioritization efforts. By minimizing the time needed to evaluate relative farm risk, PSP staff could optimize the use of their potentially limited resources and dedicate more time to the inspections most likely to protect human health and support food safety. In alignment with the Phase 2 of the Farm Data Repository launch schedule, specific opportunities for this proposal may include the optimization of the Farm Data Repository to produce a risk profile for each farm. This risk prioritization model will be built around the Cooperative Agreement Program's Produce Decision Analysis tool, which establishes risk criteria. Some of these risk criteria are priority commodities, adjacent land use, approximate farm acreage, and PSA grower training attendance. Two ways PSP can implement this opportunity include using the Produce Decision Analysis tool model as is with a one-time usage per risk prioritization effort, where uploaded results are put into the farm data repository per farm. Additionally, the farm data repository can be bolstered to have an application within it that will house this risk profile data field. This value for the risk profile will output the aggregation of Produce Decision Analysis tool criteria and will be stored per farm on the repository and potentially for each grower to view and see go down over time. A second opportunity for this RP is the optimization of the farm data repository to collect additional farm information that may inform the risk prioritization model. Information such as the proximity to a particular adjacent land activity, third-party audit results, and notices of produce recalls or outbreaks should be collected, and subsequently, the farm data repository should be regularly updated. This could include farmers self-submitting this information or through coordination with other entities such as third-party audit programs, the CAF program, and other relevant programs that may be helpful to obtain this new information for the farm data repository. RP5. Enhance the farm data repository with additional tools to assist growers in understanding their status under the PSR and streamline current data and information collection activities. This proposal aims to streamline the ability of growers to understand their coverage status under PSR and standardize inputs for the composite farm list. Additionally, this proposal aims to streamline the current process to request on-farm readiness reviews. Specific opportunities for this proposal may include the development of a coverage tool to be built on the farm data repository, which can automatically share results with PSP staff, as well as the grower. The results of this coverage tool could also be considered an acceptable form of farm verification, which can help streamline both PSP staff and grower activities. PSP may choose to model this coverage tool off the developments of other states' produce safety programs. For example, Michigan, Oregon, and Alaska currently use concise online forms to automate data collection for their programs. PSP can develop a similar form, leveraging a flowchart provided by the FDA to build logical steps into said form. This approach could create a detailed, reliable, and robust way to collect targeted data responses for PSP. Based on these responses, growers follow various paths to ultimately arrive at a data-based, automated coverage decision. This decision can then be automatically shared with PSP staff, which could potentially streamline the process of farm verification or farmer outreach. Additionally, PSP may develop an on-farm readiness review request tool to be built on the farm data repository. This OFRR request tool can allow growers to request their OFRR and provide their contact information in a standard format. Currently, this process requires a grower to find the right links, to understand what is needed, to send an email themselves, and wait for a response back. This request tool offers the ability to standardize data inputs, offers ability to translate into different languages, automate communications based on the submission of a request, the reception of a request, and further help scheduling that OFRR as well. And now I will pass to my colleague Katie so she can discuss the effectiveness and equity focus areas as they relate to the produce safety program.
Thanks, Jake. The next focus area is effectiveness, which has 4 regulatory pathways we will review together. RP6 is share trends and outcomes resulting from program activities to educate the public on food safety information. This proposal aims to streamline the analysis and communication of the outcomes and trends of current produce safety data in California to the public. This includes statistics on outbreaks, recalls, number of inspections performed, and common violations. Sharing this data would communicate the effectiveness of the program and demonstrate its value in ensuring compliance with the produce safety rule, as well as reducing foodborne illness associated with the consumption of contaminated produce, which is the primary objective of the produce safety rule. This is done by measuring and assessing key performance indicators as specified in the Cooperative Agreement Program. Specific opportunities for this proposal may include: first, presenting historical and current data in an accessible dashboard on the PSP website to demonstrate program effectiveness through trend analysis. Next is to create a working group with a robust communication channel for relevant food safety groups including the Produce Safety Program, California Department of Public Health, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and the FDA to establish annual reports related to California-based produce recalls and foodborne illness outbreaks. These annual reports may highlight the benefits of the program. Next is to compare data from farms which participated in an on-farm readiness review versus those that did not, to demonstrate the ability of on-farm readiness reviews to correct poor agricultural practices and promote greater protection of public health. Demonstrating that poor agricultural practices are being corrected adheres to the programmatic goals and objectives while also communicating program successes to the public. One of the options to implement this proposal includes model the dashboard based on similar FDA compliance dashboard tools and datasets. General inspection data, including farm name, citation, inspection classification for various FDA inspection programs, is displayed on a public dashboard on the FDA website. Produce Safety Program should consider developing a dashboard inspired by the FDA's model, capitalizing on its established, familiar structure to align the implementation and presentation of the dashboard with a system that may already be recognized by FDA, PSP, and the public. This may facilitate knowledge sharing and setup from FDA to PSP, enhancing user engagement and efficiency. This dashboard could provide visualizations, line graphs, bar charts, downloadable public datasets, and align with web content accessibility guidelines. Greater transparency on program objectives and goals could increase public trust in the program, display PSP issued citations to interested parties in the food safety system, and address growers' confidentiality concerns. Another option to implement this proposal is to use all available program data and information to measure on-farm readiness reviews from internal data sources. PSP staff indicated that on-farm readiness reviews are not currently used to demonstrate the ability of an on-farm readiness review to correct poor agricultural practices on-farm, meaning on-farm readiness review observation information and subsequent inspection information are not compared. PSP staff may consider tracking additional KPIs related to on-farm readiness reviews to demonstrate their ability to educate and correct agricultural practices. Some of these additional KPIs could include observations made during on-farm readiness reviews and practices corrected by inspections. This information can be added to a PSP dashboard previously mentioned. The last option is to share food safety trends for the public. Displaying programmatic trends would help convey the program's effectiveness in protecting human health and the environment. Environmental justice groups and other interested parties would benefit from having program and inspection information publicly available. The next RP is Regulatory Pathway 7. RP 7 is assess programmatic activities through robust feedback channels to evaluate program performance and educate growers of best practices. This proposal aims to streamline the receival and delivery of feedback to ultimately evaluate program performance and educate growers to reinforce on-farm best practices. Creating feedback channels may help the program better align with CAP objectives as well as meet the PSR objectives on a consistent basis. This approach could help reinforce the program's operational effectiveness, ensuring it goes beyond just administrative processes. Specific opportunities for this proposal may include: first, establish a produce safety task force with all relevant agricultural entities, including the Produce Safety Program, University of California Cooperative Extension, buyers and shippers, CDFA, Farm Equity Office, and commodity groups to share information and feedback on program alignment with overall FSMA, PSR, and CAP goals. The next opportunity is to provide an annual update or enhance current training materials to cover topics such as common observations, agricultural practices to avoid, and examples of egregious conditions based on annual inspection data. This can improve education by incorporating real practices observed in recent inspections. The next RP is Regulatory Pathway 8, which is incentivize growers to engage with the program to promote awareness and trust in the program. This proposal aims to streamline program engagement and participation by creating positive incentives with growers to ultimately support awareness, trust, and overall federal and state goals. Marketing materials, risk profile reduction, and recognition programs are ways to improve current incentivization activities and further promote meeting CAP objectives. These objectives include creating a farm inventory with 100% of produce farms in California and prioritizing inspections. Specific opportunities for this proposal may include, first, proposing a mechanism to FDA to provide marketing materials, such as a program logo, for use on packaging when a grower demonstrates PSP compliance via the Farm Data Repository. The next opportunity is to establish a recognition program for individuals who are helping other growers in their community with produce safety compliance. RP9 is our last regulatory pathway in the effectiveness focus area. RP9 is establish attainable goals for key performance indicators to communicate program performance. This proposal aims to streamline program performance measurement by establishing realistic, attainable, dynamic KPI goals for produce safety program. Under the CAP, there are numerous measures that PSP staff must report to the FDA as a way to track program performance and adjust funding. Exact goals for these measures, however, are not stated in the CAP and may not account for current events in the agricultural sector. PSP staff may encourage FDA to create goals and adjust them as needed to properly measure the ability of the program to meet CAP objectives pertaining to program assessment and planning activities. Specific opportunities for this proposal may include, first, to allocate PSP resources strategically to evaluate progress towards KPI goals and twice annually relay these advancements to the FDA, discussing potential adjustments as necessary. The next is to measure additional KPIs to communicate progress on education, outreach, and outcomes from the inspections internally to PSP staff and externally to the FDA staff. An option to implement this proposal includes adjust KPIs goals to consider current events impacting the agricultural community. Through the development of attainable goal setting for KPIs, the program could consistently set realistic benchmarks by using all data and information collected to make well-informed decisions. The equity focus area describes 3 regulatory pathways designed to ensure the inclusion of small-scale, socially disadvantaged growers and communities in the development, implementation, and enforcement of produce safety program regulations. Regulatory Pathway 10 is align programmatic outreach activities with the Farmer Equity Act to foster an all-inclusive approach to program implementation and regulation. This proposal aims to align actions with values and goals stated in the Farmer Equity Act, which ensures the inclusion of socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers, including socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers in urbanized areas, in the development, adoption, and implementation and enforcement of food and agricultural laws, regulations, and policies and programs. Specific opportunities for this proposal may include, first, to provide additional outreach through various channels such as UCCE and committees at the Farm Equity Office, including the California Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Producer Committee and the Small Scale Producer Advisory Committees. The next opportunity is to expand capacity to support growers that self-identify as primarily non-English speaking by providing funding support to expand direct technical assistance providers, such as UCCE and other nonprofit groups, to offer application assistance in multiple languages, as well as simultaneous interpretation and/or translation in the languages spoken in the agricultural community. The next opportunity is to provide inspection forms, resources, web-based data systems, and portals in multiple languages. The next opportunity is to leverage existing Farm Equity Office committees, including the BIPOC Producer and Small Scale Producer Advisory Committees, in collaboration with the various community organizations, such as the National Network of Promotores and Community Health Workers, to conduct periodic listening sessions, or outreach in small disadvantaged communities. The last option on the slide is to increase tailored outreach and education to small disadvantaged communities on best practices for safe food handling to reduce the risk of foodborne illnesses. Outreach and education should be provided by a trusted local organization in multiple languages and could include information on how to store, handle, and clean food. Studies show that DACs are disproportionately affected by foodborne illness due to poor food safety practices of retailers in disadvantaged communities, cultural food preparation practices, and weakened and/or compromised immune systems of individuals in these communities. Regulatory Pathway 11 is to develop an inclusive process for scheduling inspections for small-scale, socially disadvantaged growers and those with limited English proficiency to make processes more manageable and accessible. This proposal aims to streamline the development of culturally appropriate processes for scheduling inspections for small-scale, socially disadvantaged, and limited English growers that considers various factors that enhance inclusivity and understanding. Specific opportunities for this proposal may include: first, to track growers' preferred language and method of communication with other relevant basic farm information to better allocate translator and bilingual staff resources. The next opportunity is to provide copies of program information, specifically produce farm inspection report summaries, in requested languages to accommodate individuals with limited English proficiency. Copies could include mailed paper copies directly to growers and/or electronic versions for technical assistance providers to print out and to bring on-farm visits. The last opportunity on the slide is to refer small growers, as necessary, to staff to schedule an on-farm readiness review to follow PSP's goal of education before regulation. The on-farm readiness review should conclude with scheduling a date for their inspection 3 to 6 months after the on-farm readiness review. Our last produce safety program regulatory pathway is RP12. RP12 is to evaluate the ability to coordinate inspection timelines with other relevant audits or inspection entities to reduce time impact of inspections for growers. This proposal aims to streamline small-scale disadvantaged growers' inspection and audit schedule by allowing the grower to request coordinated inspection and audit scheduling between produce safety program and other audits, including third-party auditors and commodity groups. Coordinating across the inspections may decrease the total time growers spend participating in the inspections without impacting compliance, in addition to allowing growers to spend more time managing their farms, especially during the harvest season. Small-scale, socially disadvantaged growers often have both compliance and farm management responsibilities. Specific opportunities for this proposal may include: first, to conduct an initial analysis of underlying governance and regulations to determine the feasibility of sharing grower-specific data and information to coordinate inspection timelines amongst various agencies and agricultural entities. Based on the results of this option, another opportunity could be to allow small growers to request coordinated inspection and audit scheduling between produce safety program inspectors and third-party audits. This request for consolidation, including preferred time, could be made during initial outreach or during a verification phone call. It could be made through an online tool such as a Microsoft form housed on the PSP website, or it could be made through a customized solution where general farm information or inspection reports are housed. The next opportunity is to expand capacity of produce safety program scheduling staff to coordinate with other audits to communicate and ultimately come to an amicable decision on preferred timeframe for conducting consolidated inspections. For example, schedule inspections within the same week or on successive days. The last opportunity is to establish a collaborative group to coordinate scheduling in batches according to various criteria such as location, type of crop, and harvest season. This working group would meet regularly to share data electronically through databases.
Now that we've reviewed each of the regulatory pathways and their opportunities, as mentioned in the beginning of the workshop, please consider the following questions. First, what are potential implementation benefits or opportunities? What are potential implementation challenges? Which regulatory pathway, within each focus area, is most important to you? And finally, are there any unaddressed needs? We describe how you can provide feedback on these questions in the next slide. You have now reached the end of the workshop. We encourage you to provide written input and questions on the regulatory pathways discussed and the regulatory alignment concept paper by emailing the CROW team at regulatoryalignmentstudy@crow.com. All written feedback must be submitted by July 31st, 2024. We encourage you to participate in the live workshop sessions occurring in June and July 2024. You can register for upcoming workshop sessions through the links on the study website. Videos for each program workshops will be available on the study website at cdfa.ca.gov/regulatory alignment. Thank you so much for your time.